Arrest him, my sister said, pointing at my son like he was a criminal. Her voice was calm, too calm. The officer hesitated. Ma'am, he's just a child. He stole my diamond bracelet, she snapped. It's worth 20,000. Check his backpack. I stood frozen at the edge of the porch, clutching my purse so tightly my fingers ached. My son, Eli, only 11, was crying, shaking his head, whispering, Mom, I didn't take anything. The officers looked uncomfortable, but they followed orders. One of them, young, nervous, unzipped his little backpack. Inside, a bracelet. Glittering, shiny, carefully planted. No, I gasped. That wasn't there before. My sister folded her arms, smirking. Guess you shouldn't have raised a thief. Behind her, my parents stood watching from the doorway. Not a word. Not a single word to defend him. The officers cuffed Eli's tiny wrists. The sound of the metal closing around him shattered something deep inside me. He turned toward me, tears streaming down his face. Mommy, I swear I didn't. I know, I whispered. I know, baby. As the police car pulled away, I looked at my sister. Why? She smiled, adjusting her hair. Because you've always thought you were better than me. That was the moment something inside me died, and something else was born. Cold. Focused. Unforgiving. My name is Lena Hart, I'm 31, and that day, I stopped being the nice sister. The moment the car disappeared down the street, my parents turned to go back inside, as if nothing had happened. Mom, I shouted. You just watched them handcuff your grandson. My mother sighed, annoyed. Lena, your sister wouldn't lie about something like this. Maybe the boy just made a mistake. A mistake. That's what they called it when my son was dragged away, terrified, into a police car. My father mumbled, We'll sort it out quietly. No need for drama. I laughed, a dry, broken sound. Drama? You just let your grandson get arrested on a lie. My sister stood there, arms crossed, lips curved in that smug little smile she always wore when she thought she'd won. Face it, Lena, she said sweetly. You've always been the mess of this family. It was only a matter of time before your chaos rubbed off on your son. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. You planted that bracelet. Her eyes glimmered. Prove it. She turned and walked back inside, humming like she hadn't just destroyed a child's life. Mom followed, whispering, Don't make things worse. That night, I sat alone in my car outside the police station. Eli was inside, scared, crying. I couldn't reach him. Not yet. But I remembered every smirk, every word, every look of satisfaction on my sister's face. She thought she'd broken me, but what she really did was wake me up. By morning, I wasn't crying anymore. I was planning. Eli was released into my custody after the officers confirmed his age, but the stain was already there. The whispers, the headlines, the sideways glances at school. Son of accused thief. I watched him sleep on the couch, his little wrists still marked red from the cuffs. My stomach twisted. This wasn't about a bracelet anymore. It was about power. My sister's favorite currency. I spent the next day quietly gathering. Screenshots, texts, bank statements, everything she'd ever bragged about while drunk at family dinners. Her fake charity fund. Her ghost employees. Her business trips that were really weekend getaways with her boss. By evening, I had a folder so thick it felt alive in my hands. Then I called a number I hadn't dialed in 5 years. Detective Rowan, the same officer who'd once investigated my sister's company for embezzlement. He answered with a weary tone. Lena Hart? Haven't heard that name in a while. I have something you'll want to see, I said. It involves the Hastings Foundation and a $20,000 bracelet that wasn't stolen. There was silence. Then bring it in. But if you're playing games, Lena... I'm not, I interrupted. She used the police to humiliate an 11-year-old. Now, I'm using the truth to destroy her. When I hung up, I looked at Eli sleeping. This time, baby, I whispered, Mommy's not staying quiet. Detective Rowan met me in a dim interrogation room at the precinct. He looked older, more tired, But when I laid the thick folder in front of him, his posture straightened instantly. "Are these what I think they are?" he asked. "Every transaction, fake invoice, and hidden transfer my sister's been making for the last 3 years," I said. "She's been siphoning money through her own charity. Millions." He flipped through the pages, his brows furrowing. "And this bracelet incident?" "She planted it," I said flatly. "She used her connections in the department to make a false report, to humiliate me, to ruin my kid's name." Rowan exhaled. "That's felony fraud, conspiracy, and false accusation if we prove it." "Prove it," I whispered. "And make sure she never uses a police officer like a weapon again." He nodded slowly. "I'll start the process, but I'll need you to stay quiet." I smiled, the same kind my sister used to wear when she thought she'd won. Quiet is what I do best. When I left the station, I saw her car parked across the street, her silver BMW, the one she'd bought with stolen grant money. She was inside, laughing on the phone, sipping her overpriced latte. She didn't notice me walk by, but she would, because in less than 72 hours, every company she'd ever worked with, every investor she'd ever lied to, would see her for exactly what she was. By the next morning, the dominoes had begun to fall. Detective Rowan's team worked fast, faster than I'd dared to hope. They quietly reached out to the bank, the grant office, and the supposed sponsors of my sister's foundation. Every number led to another ghost, every transaction to another fraud. At home, Eli was quieter than usual. He sat by the window, tracing the condensation with his finger. "Mom," he said softly, "did I do something bad?" I knelt beside him, brushing his hair back. "You did nothing wrong, sweetheart. Grown-ups did." He nodded, trusting me completely, and that made my rage burn brighter. That night, I drafted the final piece of my plan. An email with attachments, spreadsheets, audio clips, photos, and one single sentence. The truth about the Hastings Foundation. I scheduled it to go out to every journalist, board member, and donor on Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp. At 8:02, my phone started vibrating nonstop. By 8:10, the story was everywhere, trending, breaking, spreading like wildfire. Charity director under investigation for massive fraud scheme. I sipped my coffee in silence as my sister's face filled every news feed. At 8:27, my mother called, screaming, "What have you done? You ruined her career." I stared out the window, my reflection calm, unshaken. "No, Mom," I said softly. "I didn't ruin her career. I just turned on the lights and watched the roaches scatter." By noon, it wasn't just a scandal. It was an earthquake. The Hastings Foundation's accounts were frozen. The board of trustees resigned in panic. Reporters camped outside her gated community. Every channel played the same footage, my sister in her designer coat, covering her face with a handbag while cameras flashed. And yet, she still had the audacity to call me. Her voice shook, but not from guilt, from fury. "You think this makes you better than me? You humiliated your own family. You destroyed everything." I held the phone to my ear, silent for a beat. Then I said, "You destroyed it yourself the moment you called the police on my child." "You don't understand, Lena," she shouted. "It was just supposed to scare him, not what?" I cut in. "Not handcuff him, not traumatize him, not make him think he's worthless because his mother isn't rich enough." Her silence was my answer. "Listen carefully," I said, my voice low, calm, deliberate. "You always thought you were untouchable because Mom and Dad covered for you. But now, the law doesn't care who you're related to. And neither do I." When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't in years, peace. Eli peeked into the room, worried. "Are you okay, Mom?" I smiled at him, really smiled this time. "Yeah," I whispered. "I think we both are, finally." Outside, the headlines rolled on. Justice had only just begun. The next few days felt like a movie in slow motion. Every hour brought a new headline, a new twist. Investigators confirmed that my sister had forged grant receipts and funneled over $4.3 million into offshore accounts. My parents tried to reach me, text after text, voicemail after voicemail, all saying the same thing. Families shouldn't destroy family. But they'd already chosen a side long ago. When the reporters showed up at their doorstep, I knew the truth had landed. Mom called, sobbing, saying she couldn't believe the police were taking my sister in for questioning. "She's your sister, Lena. Blood is blood," she cried. "Tell that to the 11-year-old you watched being dragged out in handcuffs." I replied, my voice trembling but firm. "You called that discipline. I call it betrayal." There was nothing but silence after that. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low, I stood at the window watching Eli build a Lego tower on the rug. He was humming to himself, calm, safe, something I hadn't seen in months. My phone buzzed. A message from Detective Rowan. She confessed. "You and your son won't have to testify." I read it twice, then locked the screen and exhaled deeply. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt like ours again, peaceful, steady, and whole. Eli looked up and smiled. "Mom, can we bake cookies tonight?" I smiled back. "Yeah, baby, we can." The trial came and went faster than anyone expected. My sister took a plea deal, 5 years, reduced for cooperation. Her husband lost his teaching license for falsifying financial records, and my parents? Their names were dragged through the local papers as complicit enablers. For once, silence fell on the Hastings family, not out of pride, but shame. A month later, I visited the same police station where my son had once been dragged like a criminal. This time, Detective Rowan met us at the door with a smile. "Eli," he said, bending down, "you're quite the brave kid. I heard you're doing well in school." Eli grinned shyly. "Mom helps me study." Rowan nodded at me. "And you helped deliver justice." As we walked out, the sunlight felt different. Warm, clean. For years, I thought peace was something you waited for, begged for. But that day, I realized it's something you build, brick by brick, truth by truth. Weeks passed. I went back to work, focused on rebuilding the life they tried to destroy. Eli slept peacefully every night. The nightmare stopped. One evening, I sat at the kitchen table, looking at an old family photo. My sister, my parents, me. I didn't feel hate anymore. I felt release. Some battles destroy you. Others set you free. And when you finally stop protecting the people who hurt you, you discover what peace truly sounds like.